welcome to Queenie Chi and Dr. Dodds. Jean,
Hi.
can we talk about functional foods?
Oh, yes,
And
let's
what
do
does
that.
it mean? Obviously, I've read your book, and I'd really like to know a bit more about what functional foods are. What does it mean? Obviously, no gluten, I guess.
Correct.
But what are functional foods, and why should we be feeding them?
Well, functional foods are foods that have a function in the body that's a positive thing. Okay, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So foods affect the
Yeah.
expression of our genes,
Yeah.
and you can either have foods that affect inflammation and are negative.
So they're
and
the ones that get turned on or turned off. I was a bit
No,
confused.
if they promote inflammation and chronic disease and
Yeah.
cancer, or God forbid, you turn on those bad gene expression parameters.
It's by feeding non-functional
The raw,
foods.
non-functional foods.
Right, okay.
By feeding functional foods, you're turning on the good genes
Yeah.
that express for health, longevity, not chronic inflammation.
Yeah.
Because chronic inflammation, obesity is chronic inflammation, for example.
Is it? So
Absolutely.
oh, right.
So glutens would be something you absolutely don't want.
Yeah.
For the thyroid and also for the bowel
Yeah.
and for the skin. And you want functional foods that are fresh fruit and vegetables, berries, fruits. You can have certain good meats. You want meats that are basically grass-fed if possible.
Can you tell me a bit about the grass-fed meat,
Yeah.
what this actually means?
A grass-fed beef, for
Yeah.
example, or lamb is or venison, deer, is one that's fed on a grass pasture.
Right.
Now, some times of the year you can't do that, and
Yeah.
so the animals then are fed on silage, which is mostly corn and other cured grains. Those produce residues in the body,
Right.
and if the corn was grown in a GMO way, genetically modified field, you have toxins like glyphosate in them. And glyphosate toxins in GMO grains are highly toxic
So this is coming from the field.
from the field itself.
So this is happening in the field.
In the field itself. So the grain, before it even gets processed, already has these toxins in it that promote leaky gut and environmental problems. And the other thing is you have mold toxins, which are called mycotoxins,
Yeah.
MYCO.
Now I've heard a lot about this,
Same
yeah.
thing, in
Okay.
the field. So mycotoxins and GMO grains have all kinds of environmental effects like herbicides and pesticides and whatever. They get in the body and they promote chronic inflammation, which is disease, which is obesity,
Yeah.
which is cancer and whatever. So you need fresh foods.
Right.
So you want meats that are grass-fed. You want fish that are not high in mercury.
What
that-
fish would you suggest?
Well, it depends. If you've got wild-caught Alaskan salmon,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and some ocean whitefish
Yeah.
are fine. You know, the large ocean fish that are not going to be.
Would an anchovy be any good? Or?
Anchovies are okay. Sardines are good. If again, you have to
Fresh
watch the labels.
sardines.
Fresh sardines, fresh herring.
Herring.
Especially,
right, yeah.
you know, if you're
Yeah.
like Holland, for
Yeah.
example, where they eat raw herring all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
We tend to stay
My
away
mum
from.
calls them silkies, just if anybody wants to know that.
We tend to stay away from shellfish.
Yeah.
Because we don't know where they've been. They're bottom feeders, and many animals and people are reactive to shellfish.
Because glucosamine, a lot of the supplements
They come
on
from shellfish.
Yeah, and
Right,
that can
right.
cause an issue as well.
Exactly. But there are other sources. There are plant sources of those things as well.
Yeah.
So if the animal has or person has a reaction to a meat or a fish, for example, you can't use the oils either.
Right.
So we had a client that came to see us. He was so proud that she did NutriScan and she found her dog could eat beef. And she's a raw feeder.
Yeah.
So she brings me this package of freeze-dried raw beef steak. Oh, my dog loves it. So I, without thinking, I pick up the package and I turn it over and I said, but wait a minute, it's got Manhattan fish oil in it.
Oh.
She said, what's that? I said, that's a whitefish. Was your dog able to have whitefish? Oh, no, she said. What am I going to do with this bag of beef? I said, I guess you're going to give it to somebody else. So again, she was well-meaning,
Yeah.
but she didn't know what the other stuff was, and she didn't realize that she should check the ingredients very, very carefully.
Yeah.
So functional berries like blueberries or bilberry if you're
Yeah.
in the European
Yeah.
continent,
Blackberries?
cranberries, blackberries,
yeah.
raspberries, We tend to stay away from strawberries.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about the strawberries? Why?
Yeah, you can have animals that are reactive to strawberries, especially the little green stem part. And also it's a goitrogen, which means it tends to suppress thyroid activity. So we don't wish, pomegranates are good, for example. Then you have turmeric and you have honey, raw honey, except not in young animals. Honey should be in adult animals only.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of oils and there's prebiotics and probiotics, all these good things.
Yeah.
And as my good colleague, Professor Bruno Stefanon has told us,
Yeah.
we have to worry in the fields about the glyphosate and the mycotoxins in the actual grains that are grown in the fields.
Yeah, this to me, I was here when your colleague said this, and this blew me away when I realised it was actually from the field.
Yeah.
I was just like, it's just madness, isn't it? The world we live in. So the best thing to do is to feed functional foods, to feed some dark berries, things like blueberries, blackberries,
Cranberries.
cranberries, yes, of course.
Pomegranates.
Pomegranates we love.
Melons, even watermelon. All of the green leafy vegetables and yellow orange vegetables. If you feed green leafy veggies and yellow orange veggies at least 3 times a week, you reduce the chance of transitional cell carcinoma of the bladder in the dog by 92%.
Right, so you've just blown my mind.
Published work.
Right, so can you say that in a really sort of simple way to me? Say it again.
Right.
So yellow...
Green leafy and yellow orange vegetables fed daily or at least 3 times a week.
Could I feed Cavolo Nero and a yellow pepper?
Yes, sure.
Perfect.
Carrots.
Carrots. Okay.
Yeah, whatever. Yellow squash.
Yellow squash, yeah.
Pumpkin.
Yeah. Yellow courgettes,
Yes.
maybe? Okay.
Right, exactly. Spinach, kale, broccoli, Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
You just have to be, I wouldn't put them all in, and either raw and chopped or lightly steamed.
Now, lots of people are worried as well about oxalates in dark leaf. Do we need to panic about this?
No, not unless your animal's making stones, and then of course you have to have special oxalate diets, which we give people.
But other than that, we don't have to worry about. It's not a
that
panic
reduces bladder cancer by 92% in published studies from Purdue University. And they also looked at herbicides and pesticides in the ground and whatever. They looked at flea and tick collars. The same individual animals that were reactive to these products are reactive to everything. But what's protective is the green leafy and yellow orange vegetables for people as well. Well, look at broccoli. It's a major anti-cancer vegetable.
Yeah. So how do you recommend cooking these?
Very lightly steamed, but chopped.
Lightly steamed, but chopped.
Yeah, because animals don't digest the cellulose very well unless it's broken down.
Yeah.
So what's the point in giving a whole carrot and it comes out whole at the other end? The animal's not getting any nutrient value from it.
So chopped up.
Chopped up, either raw or lightly steamed.
And lightly steamed. I tend to put the veg, if I'm doing just for, that day, I tend to put it in a sort of a deep frying pan type dish.
That's fine.
And tiny bit of water, and then I put a lid on, and I literally cook it for a few minutes, and then
That's
take it
perfect.
out. Yeah, that sort of thing's
perfect. You're breaking down the cellulose. Yeah.
To do it like
and you get all the vitamins and minerals because you've got the liquid that you're going to put into the.
Yes,
you're not throwing it
course.
away.
Yeah. So what are good functional meats? What would you say would be a good functional?
How about none?
Yeah.
I think if I was going to do that, I would do lamb or goat.
Yeah, goat's very good, yeah.
Maybe duck. And believe it or not, quite a few animals are doing pork, but not bacon.
Yes.
Never cured meats.
We have, in England, we have rare breed pork, Gloucester Old Spot, and we have quite a lot of rare breed type of meats coming onto our shelves. Do you recommend these type of meats rather than your bog standard, it doesn't matter?
As a vegetarian, I really can't tell you because I don't know.
Yeah.
We tend to use minimal amounts of meat.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, turkey. Turkey's excellent.
Yeah.
Turkey is high in tryptophan, as are the ocean whitefish, and they're calming.
Yes.
So turkey, rather than chicken, which is a hot food, or venison, I would use turkey. If you need fat, because a lot of these special diets are low in fat, they say, well, the animal's skin is dry, so you put a little coconut oil, for example.
Yeah. Do you recommend walnut
or olive oil
or anything like that?
Yeah, whatever.
Those sort of things are okay. Yeah.
Coconut oil, olive oil, borage oil.
Yeah.
Sunflower oil.
Yeah.
Moringa oil.
Yeah, because I think this is really important. Lots of people I've seen, they'll do a home prepared diet and then they won't add any oil to it at all. They think it's fattening for the dog.
No,
And
oil
the
is
dog,
good.
Yeah,
yeah,
they
absolutely.
need that, don't they? And also we want to stay away from anything with gluten in it, as we said before, my obsession. But you know, it's
Yeah, we want to avoid the glutens, absolutely.
and everything. And you were saying today that strawberries have
Goitrogenic activity.
goitrogenic
A
activity.
goitrogen is something that suppresses thyroid activity.
Yeah.
So it has goitrogenic activity, suppresses the thyroid.
Yeah.
So does gluten, by the way.
Yeah. So that's the reason to stay away from
Another
strawberries.
reason,
With your dog. And as we know, they can eat beetroot.
And you know, wild strawberries may be okay, those little tiny ones.
Yeah.
You know, not the
Like
regular full size.
alpine type of ones.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think as well when you're out shopping and you're buying food for your dog, as far as I'm concerned, I always say the smallest amount of quality meat.
Absolutely.
You know, you don't have to feed your dog this great big steak and nothing else.
No.
So veggies are okay.
Yep.
A good fat,
Right.
good oil, and some lovely fruit.
Fruit, yeah.
And-
Well, you know, dogs have become obligate omnivores over time. They've domesticated themselves from the wolf.
Yeah.
They're not the same species anymore.
Yeah.
There are 3 additional genes that the domestic dog has that the wolf doesn't have.
Yeah.
And they are there to digest and assimilate starch. Because we've raised the animals that way by feeding them more grains and stuff. But you don't want high glycemic food,
Yeah.
carbohydrates. No processed white sugar, no white flours.
Yeah.
You know.
None of this sort.
Uh-uh.
So, also the other thing I want to ask you about is eggs. Those little
Eggs are fine.
powerhouses, quail eggs.
Eggs
duck
are any
whatever.
kind of egg is fine.
Thing.
But, you know, obviously raw chicken in the UK right now is not a good idea.
No, that's a bit of a hot potato, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, we have in the UK we have a major issue according to the FSA, which is the Food Standards Agency. Campylobacter in raw chicken.
Yeah, bacteria.
Is 70%, isn't it?
Right, very high.
So at the moment, I think it's 6 supermarkets have committed. If you buy your meat for your dog in a supermarket, they've committed to sell all of the chickens in these sort of pre-packaged BPA-free type plastic roasting bags, and it's so that you stop handling the meat
Right,
as
exactly.
much, and that you don't wash it and you don't splatter and everything.
Yes.
They've said freezing the meat for 72 hours and then thoroughly defrosting can help,
It usually does.
but
yeah.
it doesn't guarantee that that chicken
Right.
won't have
Well,
Campylobacter.
when people have raw ground meat, for example,
Mm-hmm.
they can take it into portions for the day or the week and freeze it solidly.
Yeah.
And then dunk it in grapefruit seed extract or grape seed extract
Mm-hmm.
when they thaw it. But they put it on a wooden chopping board and they chop it up. And then they do their own food and there's an infant right there.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
come on,
Yeah.
common sense. Where did it go?
So the dogs naturally, as far as I am aware, have some salmonella
Yes,
in their
sure.
gut, yeah, but they don't have Campylobacter
No.
hanging about in there.
No.
So I think this is important to talk about as well, because a lot of people don't seem to understand that the salmonella is one thing, and that's okay, and that your dog can deal
But
with
you
that.
can take every cereal kibble and get salmonella out of it.
Yeah.
They're always talking about the raw food dangers
Yeah.
of salmonella, and every kibble has salmonella
Yeah.
growing in it.
You put your
know.
hands in there and
Right.
then rub them on your face. You're going to get it.
Yeah, and the dog has a short gastrointestinal tract, so that the transit time is fine.
Yeah.
But if the animal has a GI upset, and the transit time, we call it peristalsis, you know, the contractions and
Yeah.
relaxations, if they're not proper, the food is going to sit for a longer time in part of the bowel. It's like growing it in a bacterial medium.
Yeah.
So the food's not sterile. So
Yeah.
the bacterial medium grow there, and then it moves on down, and
Yeah.
they go up the bile duct, and they damage the liver.
Yeah.
So if you have an abnormal gut, a leaky gut, or
Yeah.
a ADR ain't doing right dog for a while, and it's the gut,
Yeah.
you don't feed them raw for that period.
Okay. You just keep
Okay?
away from that for
Yeah,
that
you
time. Yeah.
cook the
Yeah.
food unless it has bones in it.
Yeah.
And then you wait until they're completely well, and then you reintroduce the raw food.
Yeah.
Because you don't want it to sit in the bowel for any length of time.
Yeah.
That's suicide.
Yeah, no, exactly. So if a dog contracts Campylobacter,
Bacter.
it's going to be very unwell, and it's quite.
It's going to be
serious.
unwell, and it's treated with antibiotics. It's quite antibiotic sensitive, but you
Yeah.
still have to make a diagnosis.
Yeah, true. So at the moment, I've been recommending that if anyone in the UK feeds raw, I'm asking them to keep away from supermarket chickens or chicken.
Right.
Really, or if you want to feed chicken, I'm asking them to cook it. At the moment,
Right.
until this is sorted out, and it's quite horrendous, really, the situation we have.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So, but anyway, thank you for talking to us about
You're welcome.
functional foods. I love this. Thank you. Oh, great. was great.
Trying to think what I'm talking about.